I have to admit that I come from a family full of teachers. Both my mom and my dad are teachers, so are my aunt and uncle. My cousin is a qualified teacher and is currently studying education at OISE, while my grandfather was a principal. Therefore, you might not believe me when I say that the decision to become a teacher was one that I made all on my own, but I swear to you it's true. None of those people pressured me to become a teacher, and my parents made it clear from the start that they would support me in whatever career choice I made. Rather, what motivated me to enter the B.Ed program was something that I do not really share with my family, and that is my passion for history and English. More generally, this can be distilled as a passion for books, and especially older books. In this I of course include classics such as Jane Austen or Alexander Pope, who are two of my favorites, but even more obscure ones that have not really remained much in print. Unfortunately, classics are often associated with snobbery or elitism, but I really hate that. For me, it is not that new books are bad or worse than what was written before. I've also read new books and enjoyed them extensively. Rather, I love reading old books because it serves as an extension of my love of history. To experience an immersive transportation back in time excites the history part of my brain, while experiencing the wonderful plot and noticing the clever poetic devices activates the English side of my brain. And the cumulative result is this humanities overflow that I find such a wonderful experience. And what I discovered when I went to university is that this can not only be used for delight, but also for instruction. I went to Queen's University for my undergrad, and at Queen's, my favorite professor was Professor Siljak, who specialized in Eastern European history. I was lucky enough to take a few of her courses, but my favorite one was about late 19th century Russia, covering the final 2 decades under the Tsar before the Communist Revolution swept that entire world away. What I loved about this class in particular was that she taught us about this era not just by having us read articles from historians and academic journals, but also by reading a novel from this era, specifically Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, written in 1866. This worked so well because Dostoevsky was not writing just to tell a neat story. Rather, he was confronting the existential questions of his era, namely, how does one deal with the collapse of traditional morality in the newly industrialized hellscape that was 19th century St. Petersburg? From that book, you get this invaluable window into the social, political, and religious crises of the late 19th century that you would learn about in any textbook that could be assigned, but that is explored through one of the most engaging and mind-boggling stories I've ever read. This made me all the more interested in the era, since to learn about 19th century Russia generally was also to learn about the world that Raskolnikov and Sonia inhabited. I found that the fusion between fictional story and real history made the perfect partnership for motivating me to want to learn more, for promoting critical thinking, and facilitating deep historical understanding. In addition to being great instruction material, it also makes for delightful reading material. For on top of all this, Professor Siljak's class was just a ton of fun. We had such wonderful debates each week, covering a wide variety of topics. We debated Raskolnikov's tragic delusions of grandeur, or just how innocent was that pawnbroker really, or what was the deal with that fascinating police commissioner and his genius interrogation methods. We were scratching our heads wondering, how could Dostoevsky have such deep insights into human psychology before that was even a field of study? All of these discussions are ones that I would love to bring into a classroom of my own one day, and continue this conversation that Professor Siljak set in motion for me. Aside from reading novels, though, I also enjoyed conventional history learning. After I graduated from Queen's, I got a master's degree in history at the University of Toronto, the entirety of which involved traditional journal articles and nonfiction books. But even there was one girl in my master's cohort who, for her thesis, was exploring 17th century French society through the study of an obscure 17th century French novel. And talking to her about her thesis nearly made me switch topics and do something similar. However, I ultimately stayed with my topic and completed my MA just a few days before arriving here at Ontario Tech. Although, becoming a teacher was not always obvious for me. I really thought about continuing into academia and history, since it felt like the thing that I was good at. But I knew that that would mean casting aside that English side of my brain and letting one hemisphere conquer the other, so to speak. So after many hours of pondering and indecision, I realized instead that becoming an English teacher might mean striking the perfect balance. I, of course, will always give choice to my students wherever possible, but when the opportunity arises to discuss a novel from a historic society, I know that I will be able to cultivate both sides of my brain and enjoy a harmonic equilibrium. Therefore, hopefully in sharing my infused passion for history and English, I just might be able to make reading Shakespeare a little less miserable for my high school students.